So a brief introduction about me. I am working in a financial institution for the payments core engineering team. Before that, I was working for DocuSign, where we built the contract lifecycle management system. Before that, I was working for Amazon Alexa speech services team, where we built a model onboarding and training tool which helped the scientists and product managers onboard new features faster in Alexa. What is AI? What I want to talk about is what is software AI ML engineering. So basically, when companies are looking for a position that is software AI ML engineering, they are looking for expertise in both software engineering and ML. Um, so you are not going to build custom models, but what you are going to do is you are going to expose the custom trained models to the world at scale. So for example, when I was working with Alexa speech, Alexa had millions of devices in the world, and the speech recognition model was being exposed to all these customers. So anytime you say Alexa, like turn on the TV or something like that, our model was getting hit. So how do we handle that at scale? Uh, there is a common term that gets used nowadays regarding this, that is called MLOps, that is ML plus DevOps. So basically, if you go through any basic data analysis or AI trainings, they will teach you writing a Python library to train a model, to test, and doing all those things. But when you are working in a production environment, you have to automate all these things. You cannot keep on writing code, or you cannot run your scripts locally. What you would need to do is you have to create automated pipelines which does the training, testing, deployment, and monitoring for you. Now, tomorrow, what happens? One example that I will give you is during the 2020 elections. Somehow, Alexa was not understanding who Kamala Harris is. And that was a big issue. And we had to debug all the logs to understand where we are missing out. So, anytime you will get issues where people will ask you why this is not working. So, that's why you need skill, reproducibility, and reliability. You need to log and monitor and also be able to identify where my model is failing. So you have to be expert in various tools to handle models at a large scale. So, what is model training at scale? So, when as a software engineer, your scientist comes and tells you that I have this model. Now, I want to train it for for a data set that has like millions of entries. You cannot just write one Python script and run it in a server. What you would need to do is you need to set up a Apache Spark cluster. If you are writing it in Python, and that Apache Spark cluster will have multiple nodes which will distribute model training and speed up the process. If you just run it in one service, it will take you days before your training completes. But if you do it in a distributed system fashion, it will be done in like 30 to 40 minutes. So you need to learn about all these technologies. TensorFlow distributed is one thing, Horovod is one thing, PyTorch Lightning, AWS Bedrock that I have seen recently has a lot of features which helps you with model training. I've also seen that if you are working with large language models, it helps you for RAG and all these features. So you need to explore these features as well. Uh, then comes testing. Now, this is a very important aspect. Now, what happens is when you are when you have your model ready and you have your training and deployment pipeline ready, you need to consistently keep on testing data. So you would have various sources where you will be getting your data from, and what you would need to do is make sure that quality of the data is good. Something like great expectations is used for that. So basically you would want that your data will have xyz columns. If something is missing or formatting is off, you don't want to waste your resources and train that data. Also then you would need to do some sort of performance testing. So basically, maybe you trained your model, it is in production, and now you have some more training data. You don't just train and deploy it to production. You would need to have a kind of a regression testing pack, which what you do is your currently deployed model version, and then you train with new data sets, and then you compare the output for of both and decide whether you need to take this new model to production or not. So those kind of decisions you need to make during A/B testing. ML Flow also provides some features which can help you with that. um, then nowadays, these are some of the more important aspects, especially in large language models, is bias testing. So basically what happens is, for example, in fraud detection, you need to make sure that fraud detection is using correct parameters and is not getting some bias into it. So for example, maybe a person from one race is identified as a fraud more often than another race. You need to make sure your model doesn't do that. It is devoid of any bias in the system. Other types of testing also you need to perform in your model. So for example, drift detection is one thing. Like drift detection, what happens is, for example, when we have a model for fraud detection, so how fraud detection works is, if there is a sudden change in your location of your transaction, it more often than not, it is identified as a fraud. So for example, I'm living in California and suddenly my credit card is swiped in Africa maybe, then it might be like caught as fraud. But you also may need to make sure that it is not a negative fraud identification. So for example, maybe where I'm living, there has been a natural disaster, and everyone there has been moved to a new location, and suddenly they are swiping their cards in the new location. We need to make sure those kind of issues don't happen when due to some natural causes someone is moved somewhere and they are trying to use their card and they are unable to do that. uh, then one of the biggest aspect is that you also need to learn is deploying models at scale. So the model would be very heavyweight if it is serving millions of users. What you need to make sure is you follow a deployment practice where while deploying, your traffic is not interrupted. So make sure there are many services that I mentioned here that you can use to do so, so that when you are deploying, the end user is still getting responses. If for example while deploying it's like a 1 hour break, then it will be bad user experience. So you need to get rid of all those things as well. Okay, so I talked about the different technologies, different that the production environment currently different enterprises use. And what I wanted to talk about here is that it's not just about understanding the data and model training. You need to also understand how to serve them at scale. That is what MLOps or software AI ML engineer mostly do in the industry. Um, so what I wanted to talk about for a couple of slides is like because a lot of you would be new grads, how would I start applying today? So basically, every company will have their job website. Every day, at least, I will keep on applying to any good company that I want to work in, so that I know that when you apply, you don't get responses, but at least the company should have your resume in their database. Maybe tomorrow or maybe a year after that, someone will see your resume and may call to you. Now, one approach that I use while applying for jobs uh, in any role is I'll just go over how I do it in LinkedIn. Okay, so when you go to LinkedIn, search for a job. So, for example, I have here uh, software AI ML engineer. One thing what you do is you just search for recently posted jobs. If it is more than a day old, already thousands of people have applied for this job. So I would ask you to go ahead and have these filter levels already there. Also, make sure you are applying for your respective entry level. Don't have be too ambitious and lose your opportunity for an interview. uh, so this way, at least you are improving some probability of you at least getting a call from the company. uh, Now, one thing try to do is find the people already working for the roles I am applying for. So, for example, this is let me just remove this. Okay, so these are the roles I'm interested in. Now, you can directly apply for it, or I can just search in another tab. I want to work as an applied AI engineer at XAI. So let me find who works in XAI as an AI applied engineer. So I'll go here again, applied AI engineer, and I would search for the people who work for the same role at XAI. So I'll find such people, and for example, this person. So what I'll go do is I'll go to their profile and see what is their skill set, and I'll compare to my skill set as well. What am I missing? What are the certifications that they take? And what is something that I can maybe do to improve my resume itself? So these are the things they have worked on. Some people share very less in their profiles, but some also have different resumes, projects they have worked on. I would see if I can just get like 40 to 50% matching. If I don't have a skill set, it's easy to like find a course in some website and get that, acquire that skill. So find what they are working on and try to acquire that skill set as well. So that is one thing I would ask you to do. Final thing is reaching out. Now that I know this person is working at the company at the same role I am working at, I have already applied for the role, I am not getting a response. Just reach out to this person. If you reach out to 1,000 people, maybe 10 will respond to you. From that 10, maybe for 2 will give you a referral. So to get to that 2, you have to reach out to 1,000 people. Don't be shy. There's nothing bad that will happen by reaching out to someone and trying to apply for a role. So just reach out, find a person who is working on a role that you are interested in. Just reach out, ask what you need to do to get hired in the same role, and ask if their team is hiring and can they refer it. Okay, so let's continue. We were here, and let's now talk about, if I would again start out, how would I prepare? First thing is, I feel that most difficult aspect of finding a role is getting the interview. Once you get the interview, you go to Google, find the 100 recently asked questions, segregate them into topics, group by topics, master most frequently asked topics. If you have five interviews for the same role, if you follow this strategy, after five interviews, questions will get repeated. If you try to learn everything, so AI is such a vast topic, of course you will be missing out on some things. But if you like have a certain role in mind, prepare for that accordingly to this strategy, you will see that different companies keep on asking the same questions. So now you are over prepared for the role. So this is my strategy of preparing. Okay, so we went through different stages now, like what are the skills you should master, how do you apply, how do you prepare. I wanted to talk about something that I think there are very less articles in the internet today. So once you are hired and you join a team as in a software engineering or a software AI ML engineering role, how do you handle the situation? How do you approach your first days? So what I have learned is, that many people, when they join in university, when you get an assignment, only then you study about something, learn it, and do the assignment. But what I think would be a better approach is, month one, when you join a company, ask your manager, ask your mentor, what are the tools and technologies our team is using. Master it. If you spend 2 weekends, you will master most of the technologies the team is using. After that, when you get your first task, it will be very easy for you. If you wait to get your first task and then say, okay, this is getting used, this tool is getting used, that will take you longer time. Second thing is, find a mentor. uh, when you join a team, look, you find someone whom you can look up to, and try to ask that person if they are okay to have one-on-one mentoring sessions with you at least once a week. Ask them what are the best practices and guide you how to succeed in that particular team. When you join any technology company today, most of the things are undocumented. Sorry, undocumented. So basically, you join, you look at the code, but documents are not up to date. Your manager will say, ask that person, ask this person. When you figure it out, be proactive and you do the documentation. You will catch the eye of the leaders and the management in the company. When you get your first task, avoid ambiguous tasks. So basically, when your manager gives you a story in something like Confluent, Jira, or in Notion, you ask to give them every detail of that task. Don't say, okay, I will figure it out. You're a new joinee. For you, everything is going to be difficult to identify. So get as much details about the task from the manager as possible, and only then accept it. One thing that many new joiners miss out is in meetings. When people are talking about in a company, they use a lot of jargons. I would say, speak up in the meetings. It's okay to not know things, but it's not okay to be quiet in meetings. If you don't speak up, you will eventually go down a hole where you are identified for not speaking up in meetings. One thing that a lot of us software engineers do is over promise and under deliver. We say, okay, we will build this, we will build that, but when we actually work, we say, okay, this is tough, this is tough, and eventually we deliver maybe 60% of what we promised. I advise you that when you join a company, take up just what you think is 70% of your capability and over deliver. Deliver that 70% with better documentation, better text, better quality of work. That will have your a better impression than saying more and doing less. uh, I think this is coming to the end of my presentation now. uh, what we talked about here is like MLOps is bridging the gaps between ML and production. uh, if you want to if you want to work as a software AI ML engineer, you need to master scalable training, testing, and deployment. uh, Company value engineers who can work with ML technologies today. AI is, every company is seeing how they can transform their teams using AI. So this skill set is valued everywhere. And we also talked about how you can thrive in a team setting. It needs proactiveness, mentorship, and clear goal setting. These are the next steps that I mentioned.